Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special playthrough. This is King's Quest IV, The Perils of Rosella. It is, as the title implies, the fourth game in the King's Quest series. This is from 1988, I believe, and it is the very first adventure game, very first big game that I remember playing as a kid. So this has a lot of nostalgia for me. And, you know, by today's standards, it doesn't look all that good, obviously. But to me, this holds basically a top tier place in just video games of my life and of my childhood. I remember playing this. Our computer, or our monitor, I should say, wasn't even a color monitor. It wasn't even monochrome. It had three colors: yellow, orange, and brown. It was a very strange monitor. And it could also do black by just, simply not having any color at all. But it didn't have white. There was no blues, no greens, no reds, none of that. Everything was yellow, orange, and brown. This game was also one of the very first games to feature a female protagonist. Now, as a tiny child, I didn't really understand that. I don't even think I knew about that was even an important breakthrough in games. All I knew was this is a game that I had, and I loved it, and I played it a whole lot. I didn't really know what I was doing, but we'll get on to that. This is also a part that I didn't really grasp as a kid, that King Graham has essentially a heart attack and he only has 1 day to live. I mean, the text tells you that, but I didn't really understand that that's what was going on. So the emotional punch of this really kind of slipped me by. So this game begins directly after the end of King's Quest III. In that game, you play as Prince Alexander, and you sort of save Rosella from a big dragon. There was all these things that were happening in Daventry, in the Kingdom of Daventry at the time, and we'll get into that maybe if we do playthroughs of the first 3 games. But this game starts right after that, and King Graham is like, well, now I'm passing the adventurer's cap to my children, and he has a heart attack, so everyone is very sad. And Rosella here is contacted by this mysterious voice from the magic mirror, which is one of the 3 treasures of Daventry. And in fact, the only treasure that kind of gets billing after the first one. The other 2 treasures are barely mentioned afterwards. But she's contacted by this fairy queen who's named Genesta. And in the land that Genesta lives in, Tamir, there is this magical fruit that can heal Graham. How convenient. But of course, as with any, fairy queens and good witches and wizards and all the rest of it, there's a catch. You have to help her. So I'm going to skip the rest of this kind of opening sequence because the essentials are Genesta transports you here to the land of Tamir, disguises you as a peasant girl, and you have to help her out. And what you need to help her with is defeat the evil fairy Lolotte, who stole a magic talisman from Genesta. And Genesta's not going to be able to return Rosella back home unless she's got the talisman. Hence, the favor that she needs to do. And through all of that, you need to find the little tree that bears that magical fruit of health during your travels. And you actually have only 24 hours to play the game and get back home with the fruit. You have literally 24 hours. The game has this interior clock, this clock that's running in the background for 24 hours. Now that seems like you don't really have a lot of time, but that's actually oodles of time. In fact, the game will progress to an evening phase after you fulfill certain conditions, and you usually are going to get there before the actual 24 hours are up. Anyway, we'll get to all that in due course, but for right now, let's take a little bit of time to enjoy this nice little beach Let's look around. Now, this is a game that relies on the parser system. Early adventure games all had this. You actually had to type your instructions to the character on what they were supposed to do. A river coming from the east spills into the blue ocean before you. A lonely beach edges the ocean. From atop the bluff, a lovely meadow stretches eastward. Very nice. Now, this game also features mouse support. When I played this originally, we didn't have a mouse. It was all through the keyboard. So I'm going to use the mouse as much as I can. The one thing that is not really present here is any sort of pathfinding. So see, I can click here and Rosella's like, I can't get there. You dingus, there's a rock in my way. So it's only with the more recent games, starting in King's Quest V, where we get a little bit of pathfinding. Look at this nice river. Now again, when I played this as a kid, this was this wasn't green, this wasn't blue. You know, this was brown and this was yellow, or no, this was probably, no, the river was probably brown, and like this area was probably either yellow or orange. My goodness, how did I ever play games like that? Well, when you're a child and you've got only, you know, whatever your family's got, that's what you use. I kind of like using the arrow keys, in fact. This is how things were. It's not even WASD. It's up, down, left, right. Oh, here's an important character, the unicorn. Let's take a look at the unicorn. You see a beautiful wild unicorn in the meadow. Its coat is dapple gray, and its wonderful horn shines like gold. The unicorn shies at your approach and trots away. Trottity, trottity, trottity. Now, the unicorn is going to come into more importance later on, but for now, there's not much that we can do with him. We're just gonna walk around. Here we have a diamond mine, or it might be of other gems as well, but predominantly diamonds. And if we take a little stroll up here and take a look inside, you have encountered a group of small men working in this diamond mine. They're not too friendly, though, as one of them forcefully tells you to leave the premises. Get the fuck out, is pretty much what they said. So you can't do much in the mine yet. You have to do something to get the dwarves to like you a little bit more. And we'll get to that very soon. But for now, I want to introduce you. I want to tell you about the only two things that I could do as a kid that I had figured out to get points. So you see at the top of the screen there, score 0 of 230. There's a maximum of 230 points that you can get in the game. That's a perfect playthrough. As a kid, I could only get 4 points, and let's talk about those right now. So I'm going to go back and forth between these two screens, because there he is. We have a little birdie. He's trying to get a worm. You get too close, and the bird leaves, and you can get the worm. Ah, that little ding, by the way, that little fanfare. That's the game's way of telling you did a good thing. You did a thing that merits you points. So getting that worm and these 2 points was one of the things that I had figured out when I was, oh gosh, like how old would I have been? Like 6 years old, 6, 7. We're going to get back to this house. This is actually the house of the dwarves that we saw just a little while ago, but we'll come back here in a little bit, because what I want to do first is find the other thing, the other source of points that I had found. Oh, look, this gnarly tree. Very spooky. We have a frog pond here. I'm going to scare the pond away by dipping my toes in the water. And we'll come back to him as well. Oh, this is a funny little guy. It's Pan. Look, Pan. Whoops. You see a lively creature who is, at the same time, both a man and goat. He is a satyr, and his name is Pan. He seems to be greatly enjoying his flute music. That's nice. So he's just gonna traipse about playing his flute. For now, we're gonna come up here and just relax at the side of this nice Roman pool. Let's take a dip. Whoops. So in the game, in every Sierra game, really, if you weren't careful around edges, you were gonna fall. And if you fall too far, that's death. That is death. And hopefully you saved your game, which is another staple of Sierra games. You had to save your game often. Because if you didn't, well, there's a whole bunch of stuff you had to redo whenever you died. It was very much not like the LucasArts branch of adventure games. In Sierra games, you could mess up your entire playthrough by forgetting to do something very early on, and you get to it by the end of the game, and you forgot to do something, and you were screwed. You had to start all over again. Not very fun. Oh, the pool was just south of this screen. My goodness. All right, so this is another thing. We're just going to go back and forth until here he is. It's Cupid. Look at Cupid. So he's just going to fly on down and put down his bow and arrows and take a little dip. But even before he hits the water, he's like, "Oh God, it's a girl! Fly away!" And so he flies away, and he leaves his bow and arrow behind. What a jerk! So now we're just going to get the bow and arrow, and that, ladies and gentlemen and folks, are the only 4 points that I could get in this game when I played it for the first time, and for many, many years, probably when I was that age, when we first got this game. 4 points, a worm and a bow and arrow. I didn't really know what this was all about, because the thing about King's Quest games is a lot of the puzzles, a lot of the story bits, a lot of the characters that you meet in the various places, the various locales, come straight out of, where am I? There I am. Come straight out of various fairy tales. And at that age, funnily enough, I didn't really know many of them. I hadn't even seen the classic Disney movies, Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, like all of those old movies, old fairy tale movies, I hadn't seen. So a lot of it passed me by as, solutions to these puzzles. Now here, there's a little thing under the bridge. You kneel down and peer under the bridge. Aha! You have found a small golden ball. You pick it up and carry it with you. Perfect. That might have been the first thing beyond the other two that finally I was able to figure out. I think it probably also didn't help that I had the monitor that had no color on it. So it's very difficult to distinguish anything and figure out what they were. Now, let's take a look at the frog that's in this pond. The large frog stares back at you with big bulging eyes. Now, you can't really see it now. Well, you can sort of see the yellow, but he's wearing something. So what I can do is, I think if I drop the ball, here we go. You accidentally drop the golden ball into the pond. From atop a lily pad, a large green frog leaps into the water and disappears from view. A moment later, the frog emerges with, "Yes, your lost ball," in its mouth. It seems as if the frog is kindly returning your gold ball to you. How nice. Oh, there he is, just swimming. Doot, doot, doot. So now I can go over here. And there are two things I can do. I can either pick up the ball, or I can pick up the frog. So let's get the frog. You're not near enough. Okay, fine. Am I near enough now? There we go. Squinching up your nose in disgust, you catch the large frog and hold it in your hand. Why would Rosella do that if she's disgusted by it? Like in universe, you have to do this because of what's going to happen next. But what would what would possess her to do that if she thinks the frog is disgusted in the first place? And anyway, it's not important. It stares at you with its big, bulgy eyes and wobbles its throat. So, look, frog. There he is. Isn't he cute? And he's wearing a crown. So, this is where knowledge of fairy tales comes important, because what are you going to do with a frog with a crown on it? You kiss the frog. You look at the frog's green lips. Good. You feel silly doing this as you slowly put your mouth against the frog's. Smooch. Suddenly, the little green frog changes into a handsome prince. Who are you? The prince demands. I thought you were supposed to be a princess. Well, you're nothing more than a peasant girl. So he's just a massive jerk. You blanch a bit at that remark, but say nothing. Well, ta-ta, he says. I'm off. Here, you may keep this. To your surprise, he tosses the little golden crown to you as he takes his leave. Good riddance, you think. Yep. Well, that was something that we needed to do because we got some points. We got a little crown. And why don't we just get our ball back? Perfect. Now, who that prince was, which kingdom he's a prince of, we don't know. We never learn, and we don't care. He's just out of our lives forever. This is how King's Quest games usually were. They just had this random assortment of characters from fairy tales just placed around all over the place without really any indication of where they're sort of from in game. Now, the reason that this crown is very important, let's put on crown brown. Actually, it's probably just wear crown. That's not a good idea now. Oh. Do I have to be maybe at the pond to do that? Let's do a little save of the game first. I'm going to save over here. This was my little practice save before I started recording. So pond. Let's do a save there. Just in case. There we go. So you put on the little crown and poof, you're a little froggy. Ribbit, ribbit. You don't like the clammy feeling of being a frog. You look around, decide there's no reason to be one right now, and remove the little gold crown. So one might wonder why the prince just never took his crown off, because that seems to be all you need to do. Oh, well, that's not important. So one last thing we'll do for this episode. See this house here? Well, it turns out that this belongs to the dwarfs from the mine. Look, you have come upon a cute little house built right into a huge tree. An old water wheel attached to the house goes unused beside the little river that flows gently before the house. Oh yeah, water wheel isn't going at all. Wonder why? Oh well. Look, house. The roots of this great tree envelop a little snug house. Smoke lazily curls from its chimney, and an old rustic water wheel rests beside the river. It's putting a lot of attention to that water wheel, but there's nothing to do with it. It's just there. There's no reason to keep mentioning it. So here we are in the dwarf's house. Look, this is the main room of the 7 dwarfs' cozy tree house. What a mess it is. Not sure how Rosella knows that this is the house of the 7 dwarfs, but there you go. Let's take a look at what's cooking. Look, pot. You see a pot of soup bubbling over a cheery fire. Look, soup. You see, okay. Can I eat some soup? Not now. So the thing you have to do here, and knowledge of Snow White and the 7 dwarfs would be handy. But again, tiny child me did not know what to do here. So it was just like, this is a house that's dirty. I don't know what to do. But the solution is, you may be amazed to know, is you just clean. And off Rosella goes to clean the house with a cheery little tune to accompany her magic dust flower hands to clean up the entire house. I wish I could clean my house with such efficiency. Also notice the improved sort of sprite design for these interior scenes. Rosella's character is much bigger and much more detailed. I say much more, it's not that much more detailed, but for 1988, this was pretty good. This was the first King's Quest game done with support for EGA graphics, I believe, and it was the first one using Sierra's new SCI, or Sierra Creative Interpreter engine for adventure games. Before that, they used a different engine. You watch quietly as the dwarfs file in one by one, get a bowl of soup, and take a seat at the table. And this is going to take a long time because they come in one at a time, presumably because the game could only handle animating like one character at a time, or probably not just one, but maybe just a few characters at a time. So definitely couldn't do all 7. So they just had the dwarves come in one at a time to get their soup. So you notice that none of them have actually started eating yet. They're all waiting for their friends to come in to have a little bit of soup, because they've been working hard in the mines. It's not clear who they're mining diamonds for, but that's how it is in fairy tale land. And that's dwarf number 6. And finally, here comes the leader. This dwarf must really be hungry. He's getting 2 bowls of soup. Notice how all of the dwarfs just came in one at a time and didn't question the fact that there's this peasant girl who had apparently cleaned their entire house. The 7 dwarfs seem very pleased that you tidied their messy home. One politely asks you your name. You tell him, and he cordially invites you to sit down with them and eat the bowl of soup that he got for you. Ah, how nice. You seat yourself at the table and begin to eat the surprisingly delicious soup. Soup. Tink, 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 tink. Delicious. Can I talk? Can I type while this is happening? Oh, I can. Talk dwarf. You politely talk to the dwarf nearest you. Where are you from, Rosella? He asks. You tell him Daventry. The dwarf thinks for a moment. Never heard of it. Can I keep talking? Again, you engage in conversation. Is Daventry far from Tamir? The dwarfs wonder. Very far, you tell them. How did you get here? They ask. As you don't want to get into specifics, you tell them, by sea. That answer seems to satisfy them, and they return to their eating. Can I keep talking? You speak to the nearest dwarf again. He wonders why you are here in Tamir. You explain that you are in the service of Genesta, the good fairy, who wishes to regain her magic talisman from the clutches of Lolotte, the bad fairy. Well, young lady, the dwarf states, I don't envy you. You're much braver than I am dealing with that evil fairy. We talk again? You attempt conversation another time, but the dwarves tell you they must hurry and finish their soup, as they need to get back to work before dark. Shut up, we're hungry. Tink, 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 tink. So the dynamics between Genesta, the good fairy, and Lolotte, the evil fairy, is very much Glinda the Good Witch and the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz, particularly the movie version, because the original book version didn't really have any animosity between any of the witches, really. So it's very heavily influenced by the movie, by the Wizard of Oz movie. And especially once we get to see Lolotte, her design is very much based on the Witch of the West. Goodbye, and thanks for the soup, you call. Oh, you call. as they take their leave. So off they go, once again, one by one, in exactly the same order that they came in. They formed a stack. There we go. You finished your soup also. It was the best soup you have ever tasted. Maybe, though, you were just really hungry. Ha ha, there we go. Well, as we don't want to leave the house too messy, we're going to clean up again. Why did they have 8 bowls if there's only 7 of them? Whew, I hope that's the last of it. Oh, but wait, there's something on the table. You see a long wooden table. You also notice a blue pouch. All right, well, let's just shimmy on in here. Take a look. Get pouch. Our happy good thing fanfare. Let's take a look at the pouch. It's a diamond pouch. Ooh, hoo, 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 hoo. That's going to be pretty valuable. But since we're a very honest person, we're going to go return that to the dwarves because it's not ours. They mistakenly left it there. Although one might argue that they left the diamond pouch there as, sort of a tip to thank Rosella for cleaning their house. And, well, she didn't really make the soup, but she did clean. So let's go into the mine. And now you will notice that the dwarf that was stationed at the door and shoot us away is now down there in the pit. And since we're all friends, they're not going to try and chase us away. Now, the way to get down there, the way the game wants you to go, is go down this way. But, well, actually, I say but. Let's give it a save before we do anything. Dwarf mine. You can actually just fall down. Whoops. Okay, so it doesn't kill Rosella. It's hard to judge just how much of a fall that she can take before she dies. Also, let's take a moment to appreciate the design of these screens. So they could have easily just made the design here, the artistic design, so you're just in the cave. But just the use of the negative space, the negative color here in the foreground to mimic sort of like roots or maybe even like wooden structures to hold, to make supports for the mine. Like, this is really, really good visual design. And Sierra did a lot of this throughout their games, and we'll see a bit more as we keep playing. So let's give pouch. Try standing in front of the... I was like right up in his face. There we go. Being an honest person, you offer the forgotten pouch of diamonds to the dwarf. His gruff exterior softens a bit. Nah, you can keep it, he says. We got plenty here. We also got an extra lantern we ain't using. Here, go ahead and take it. The dwarf's gruffness returns as he says, now skedaddle on out of here. Will do, Mr. Dwarf. Thank you so much for the lantern. And now we're gonna skedaddle. And we definitely need to... Whoops! And there it is. There's the first time that we've fallen off a winding path, and it wasn't really that windy. Sierra adventure games were full of those sorts of windy, tricky paths that you can fall off of. All right, and here we are, everybody. So we're going to end this episode here, and I'd like to thank everybody for watching, for sticking through. I hope everybody's in the mood for a nice, chill playthrough of this classic adventure game, King's Quest IV: The Perils of Rosella. I know I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. As I said, this was the very first game that I had played. As a kid, I never really beat it until many, many years later, and even then only with the use of a hint book. But we'll get into all of that next time. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.